Hi, everybody. I'm Lynn Fukutani, the Director of Curriculum here at Bay Hope Church, and I want to welcome you to How the Bible Fits Together. For those of you who have spent the January until a couple weeks ago with me live in class, we are now all online. And for those of you who joined me online the whole time, welcome back. We are in week 9 of this study, and I imagine there might be some people who are joining us who have no idea what I'm talking about. We are embarking on a journey through the whole Bible. We've spent 8 weeks in the Old Testament unpacking it, showing that there's one story that connects the whole Bible together. And today we're going to start lesson 9. And so in the notes below, you should find a link for the workbook that everybody has, and you can find the previous 8 videos on Bay Hope Church's YouTube channel and on our Facebook group. So there's plenty of time to catch up if you want to, but we are going to do lesson 9 today, which, funnily enough, isn't even in the Bible. Well, some of it is, but most of it isn't. It's the time between the Old Testament and the New Testament, and many people call that the silent years, but I hope by the end of our journey through that, you'll discover it was only silent to us. God was busy like a duck under the water, running his feet, getting everything ready for Jesus to come. So we're going to talk about those 400 silent years, but to do that, we have to back up 200 years to around 600 BC, when the Jews in the southern kingdom of Israel were naughty again because they wouldn't worship God. They worshiped any other god that happened their way, but not God. And they kind of went through the motions, but their hearts weren't in it. So God decided to exile them to Babylon, and he appointed King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon to come into Judah and whisk away the people for a period of 70 years. And so they went to Babylon, hung out there. One of the people that went to Babylon with Nebuchadnezzar is a fellow called Daniel, who you may or may not know. He has a book named after him in the Bible. It's awesome. You should read it. In that book, in the 2nd chapter of that book, Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, has a dream. And it scares the daylights out of him, and he calls for his wise men to come and explain this dream to him. Now, normally, wise men will come in, and the king would tell him what his dream was, and they would say something positive because they didn't want to make him angry, because he might kill them. But this time, Nebuchadnezzar's on to them, and he tells them, I want you to tell me what my dream was, and then I want you to tell me what it means. Well, these magicians and wise men were like, we can't do that. And so Nebuchadnezzar gets really torqued because he really is disturbed by this dream, and he sends his soldiers out to kill all the wise men because now he's decided they're useless. So the soldiers knock on Daniel's door and say, we're here to kill you. And Daniel's like, wait, what's going on? And they say, well, Nebuchadnezzar had this dream, and the wise men can't tell him what it was, and he's all mad at them. He goes, just give me a day. Give me a day, we'll figure this thing out. So the soldiers don't want to go around killing all the wise men, so they say, okay, fine. So Daniel gathers Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, his friends, and they all pray. They ask God, please, please, please tell us what this dream was, and then tell us what it means so that we don't get killed, and so Nebuchadnezzar can cool off. So overnight, God gives Daniel everything he needs. So the next morning, the soldier comes by, and Daniel says, take me to the king. So Daniel shows up at King Nebuchadnezzar, and he says, oh, masterful king, I know exactly what your dream was. You had a dream about a very tall statue. Its head was of gold, its chest was silver, its belly and thighs were bronze, its legs were iron, and its feet were a mixture of clay and iron. And then out of nowhere comes this rock carved out of a mountain, but not by human hands. And it smashes into the legs of this statue, and it all falls over, and it just is in pieces. And the wind comes and blows all the dust away. That's your dream, right? And Nebuchadnezzar's like, yeah, that was my dream. Now, what does it mean? So Daniel tells him what it means. He says, oh, Majesty, you have been given this kingdom and authority over the whole civilized world. Even the animals and the plants report to you. You are the head of gold. But your kingdom will end, and after your kingdom will rise a new inferior kingdom, which is represented by the silver chest and arms. It will be a divided kingdom, less awesome than yours. After that kingdom goes away, another kingdom will rise, represented by the bronze belly and thighs. After that, another kingdom by the iron legs. And at the end, the feet and the toes are mixed clay and iron, representing two kingdoms that are trying to make things work together, but they don't gel. And so they're unstable. The rock coming out of nowhere, destroying everything, is a kingdom that God is going to set up, and it's going to last forever. Its king will reign forever, and it will change everything. That's your dream, O king, and that's its interpretation. Well, Nebuchadnezzar decides to worship Yahweh because he's super awesome about this dream and everything, and life goes on through the book of Daniel. The reason I told you that story, which has actually a lot to do with the silent time, is to launch into this silent time. Now, the Babylonian kingdom was the head of gold with King Nebuchadnezzar. After Nebuchadnezzar dies, one of his sons, Belshazzar, is in his palace having a terrible party, and at this terrible party, he is actually using the cups and pitchers and sacred objects that Nebuchadnezzar had stolen out of the temple at this party, drinking wine and getting all drunk, and out of nowhere comes this hand, and it's writing on the wall, and it writes 4 words. It writes, many, tekel parson, and nobody knows what it means. So who do they call? Daniel, because he knows things. So Daniel asks for the interpretation from God, and God tells him exactly what it means. Many means that your days, King Belshazzar of Babylon, your days have been numbered and your kingdom is now at an end. Tekel means that you've been weighed and found wanting, meaning you don't measure up. And parson means that your kingdom is going to be divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. So as soon as Daniel gets done talking, in waltzes King Darius of the Medes and takes over everything. Belshazzar is killed. The Medes and the Persians, which are related by marriage and stuff, these two kingdoms come together and rule everything now. So the Babylonian kingdom is done, and now we're into the Medo-Persian Empire. They are going to reign through the books of Ezra and Nehemiah, and Esther is part of that. And then the Old Testament closes while the Persians are still in power. So the silent years are the time between the last prophet, Malachi, and the beginning of the first book of the New Testament, Matthew, when Jesus comes. So those 400 years, it feels like nothing happened because God isn't talking to prophets anymore. He's not giving writings. He's not making miracles. Nothing's happening visibly for the Jews, and they're just kind of languishing. They're back in Jerusalem and in Judah, and they're there, but God is so silent that they just feel like they're out in left field. So the Alexander the Great rises up in around 333 BC. So the Persians rule till then, and there's nothing extra remarkable about their rule with regard to Israel. But when the Greeks come by, Alexander the Great is on a mission to take over the world. This is all like Lex Luthor kind of people. They just want to run the whole world. So he starts in Greece and just powers his way all the way over to India, south to Egypt, north to the Black Sea. He's taking over a lot. And his whole deal is to make everybody Greek, because being Greek is awesome. And so he wants everyone with athletics and education, and oh, by the way, everybody should speak the same language. So he makes everybody speak this Koine Greek language, which is a Greek language of the common people. They used it in politics, in economics, in education, and just kind of everyday language. So he doesn't last very long, Alexander the Great. He institutes a lot of cool programs around his whole empire, but he only lasts 10 years and dies of a disease. While he was there, though, he developed the city of Alexandria in Egypt and built this awesome library because learning is very important to the Greeks. So he did leave that behind, but he wasn't really able to do much else. So when he died, he didn't have an heir, and the kingdom, as you might expect, was in chaos. So his 4 generals took over. And if you've ever been on a committee with 4 people in charge, you know this doesn't go well, and it doesn't go well. So 2 of those generals are important to us. The other 2 had divided up the kingdom, and they reigned like up more in the northern areas. But the 2 we're interested in are, one of them is called Ptolemy, except it's spelled with a P, Ptolemy. He's from Egypt, and he runs over Egypt, so south of Israel. And the Seleucid general runs like Syria, so just north of Israel. So poor Israel is stuck in the middle between the Ptolemies to the south and the Seleucids to the north. And the only reason Israel is important isn't because Israel's important because it's awesome. It's important because the trade route runs right through it. So the Ptolemies want the trade route, the Seleucids want the trade route, and so for a couple hundred years, the 2 of them are fighting over Israel. And the poor Israelites stuck in the middle of everything. Well, when the Ptolemies are in charge of them, everything's kind of fine. The Ptolemies really don't care about Jewish worship. They could do it if they want to. They don't have to if they don't want to. All they really want is their goods. They have figs and dates and olive oil and grain and all kinds of stuff that Egypt doesn't grow. They want that because the trade route and everything. And they want the route to bring all the good stuff from Egypt to the rest of the world to make a whole bunch of money. So Israel is kind of this tolerated temple state where the high priest actually runs the place, which is kind of scary because he's not a politician or a governmental guy. He's a priest running the whole country of Israel under the authority of the Ptolemies. As you might expect, not all of the Jews are super interested in being ruled by the Ptolemies, and they revolt and refuse to pay taxes, and there's skirmishes all the time and everything. At the same time, the Seleucids up north in Syria want Israel for the same reason Egypt does, and they keep coming down and attacking the Ptolemies and the Israelites and everything. Well, eventually the Seleucids win, and they control the place. They're not fans of the Jewish people. They're not fans of the Jewish religion because it's not Greek. Remember, these are Greek people, and they want everybody to be Greek. These Seleucids are aggressively Hellenistic. They want everybody Greek. So worshiping at the temple in Jerusalem doesn't do them any good. All the practices that the Israelites do, it's not Greek, it's Jewish. We can't have that anymore. So along comes this ruler called Antiochus IV Epiphanes, whose name means manifest God. He chose the name himself because he thinks he's awesome. He cancels all the circumcisions, cancels the Sabbath, puts a statue of Zeus in the temple, in the Jewish temple, and then he sacrifices a pig every day on God's altar. And if you know anything about God's practices, pigs weren't part of the diet. And so having pigs sacrificed on God's altar was sacrilegious. Having a statue of Zeus in the temple that belongs to God, that's horrible. So Antiochus IV Epiphanes has his generals run all over Israel, making the Israelites conform to Greek pagan worship. So in this town of Modin is a priest, an older priest, and when the general comes by to collect taxes and make sure no one's being Jewish, because that would be horrible, Mattathias, the priest in Modin, says, "No way, Jose, we are not doing that." And a fight ensues, and the general is killed. Well, Mattathias and his 5 sons hightail it out of there because Antiochus's other forces are going to come after them. So they run away. Eventually, Mattathias dies, but his son, Judas Maccabeus, whose name Maccabeus means the hammerer, he rises up, and he's kind of a zealot. He's willing to fight to the death for his Judaism. And so you may have heard of the books of the Maccabees. They're in the Catholic Bible, and you can read about them online if you want to, but it's all the stories of this family, this Maccabean time of Jewish history. It's when they fight against the Seleucid dynasty, and they actually win. They get the temple back, they cleanse it, they get the pig blood out, they get the statue of Zeus out, they get everything all cleaned up, they reinstitute all the feasts, and then they go to light the candles, the lampstand in the temple. This beautiful 7-lamp menorah that is always supposed to be lit. They're ready to light it, and they look to find the special oil they're supposed to use, and there's only enough for one day. And they don't know what to do. It takes 8 days to make this stuff. So they say, we're going to light the candle stand. We're just going to go for it. So they light the candle stand, and it miraculously stays lit for 8 days while they're making more olive oil to go into this lampstand, which is a miracle. And I bet you know where we're going with this. It's the holiday of Hanukkah commemorates this event, the lasting of the olive oil in that lampstand for 8 days. Jesus goes to the temple in the book of John to celebrate the festival of dedication, which is also this holiday. It's the same name, same holiday, different name, and also it's called the Festival of Lights. So it goes by a lot of different names, but it's this event that happened between the two testaments when the Maccabees took back their religion and put themselves back in charge, which kind of went south for a little while. But the Greeks are kind of done with Israel. Rome is coming up really quickly, and they'll be here in just a minute. But we're going to talk about that in just next time because there's just like too many names to remember. But so far, we have God setting up the silent years. He has reinstituted the temple worship. He has a language that everybody speaks. Everybody in the whole Greek Empire speaks this language. The Jews speak it. Down in Alexandria, where the library is, they have translated the Old Testament into Greek, which you may know is called the Septuagint, or it's also called the LXX, which is 70 in Roman numbers. 70 because 70 scholars translated the Old Testament into Greek. But you can read that too if you want to. It's available. It's kind of hard to read, but it's there. A lot of the New Testament quotations from the Old Testament are from the Septuagint, so they don't line up exactly with the Hebrew Bible, but they're a translation of a translation. So all this is happening in the silent years. There's more to come, and we'll get to that next time.